We're going to make the drawer box for this a little bit differently than the other projects that we've done in the past. In the past, the box itself was made of plywood. It was kind of pre-finished and we could just take it as is and make our joints and put it together. But for this, I wanted a little higher, a better grade of finish, like furniture, for this nice chessboard. So we're going to make it out of all solid wood, which is something that we can spray with lacquer later. So the whole thing will be sprayed. So in this case, the drawer front itself, I want out of solid cherry to match the other three surrounding parts. But the box itself, I'm going to make out of alder. So something still a solid wood, but we're going to have to plane it down to the 1/2 inch. We're going to have to do a couple of extra things to it, but it will give us a nicer finish when we're done. So I looked in the scrap bin again and found pieces. Here's your cut list. 4 pieces. Now 3 of them are alder and 1 of them is cherry in my case. You can use whatever you want for the front. But you want 4 pieces that are 2 3/4 wide and 15 inches long. And 15 is the rough size. So set this to 15. And I found out of this I can get 2 of the 3 alder ones. I've got another one there and then a chunk of cherry. So be careful, alder and cherry look a lot alike, especially for beginners, so make sure you can tell which is which. Set the table saw to 2 3/4 and go ahead and make your cuts. All right, guys, we're back at the planer. Now, this one, the cherry board, has to be 3/4 of an inch thick. The rest of these are a 1/2, so I can start them all at the same time. But you got to remember when to pull out your cherry board, because we don't want this as thin as these. Now I turned it a 1/2 turn so to get it a little closer to 3/4. It'll just save me some sanding time later, but that's up to you. But now I'm going to turn it the rest of the way and keep sanding the other 3 through until I get to my 1/2 inch. Now that this one's 0.75, I'm just going to turn off the conveyor, remeasure the small ones, do it again. Now that we've finished the front, we need to sand these sides down to about a 1/2 inch. Now I said at the planer we're going to a 1/2, but in reality we're going down a little bit thinner. What the reason is, this 1/2 inch piece of plywood isn't actually a 1/2 inch thick. It's a little bit thinner. And I found that it's about 0.45 inches thick. We want to match that because it'll be easier later with some of the joinery that we're doing. So go ahead and set this up just like you always do. And we're going to go down to 0.45. So keep sanding it until you get to that spot. Now I've just finished sanding these to thickness. Now they are exactly 2 3/4 of an inch wide. And while they might fit in the drawer, it's going to be super tight. I need a gap. So I like about 1/8 of an inch of gap for the drawer to be able to come out. To gap on top, it can come out and kind of hang down. And so instead of simply cutting these down to size to take off 1/8 of an inch, I'm coming to this green jointer that removes 1/16 of an inch per pass. And I'm simply going to joint, flip it over, and joint again. Now what that does for me is it removes the teeth marks from the table saw, so it will require less sanding later on, and it gives me a smoother finish. Now because this board is so small, make sure to use a push stick to run it across both times. Hold it in, push it across. And I'm taking my time, going nice and slow so that I get a good finish. Flip it over, do it again. This is one of those techniques that simply saves time later. I don't like sanding. This will keep me from having to sand more.